So we've apparently got a poor signal. I want to see what I can do to fix that. I can see myself. Interesting. So I'm hoping that yes, great. So I can see myself on I've got two devices going here. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. This is one of the joys of working from anywhere, is we do have to deal with technology and making sure that it's working. But just let me know if you guys have any difficulties connecting. I'm just waiting on my colleague Jeff to join us. He'll probably be on any minute. And Courtney, so if our friend Jeff calls in, can you just accept his invite, and hopefully he'll be connecting with us. I'm just going to shoot him a quick text message right now. So wanted to quickly today.
Hi, Andrew.
Look, here comes Jeff now.
How are you today?
Apologize for the text, and we'll have Jeff in just a minute here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Great.
Sort of got a bit of audio there. I don't know if this is... perfect. So you are there. So I'm here today. I got my video crew with me, letting us film the benefits of being virtual. So one of the big reasons I'm a big proponent of the cloud accounting tools is the ability to access your information wherever you are in the world, whether that be at the cottage, at the city, in your office, hopefully not in your car while you're driving, but I guess that's possible. And Jeff, what's the number one reason that you like cloud accounting?
I think number one reason I like it is just basically it's the ability to be present with my clients wherever I am. If they need something, I can deal with it. I can. Can you hear me?
No, you're
Hello?
not hearing me. Love technology when it works, when it doesn't.
I can hear you, but I guess you can't hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you now, actually. You're coming through now.
Oh, there we go.
So not sure what changed.
Wouldn't be technology if it didn't work and cause us a little stress.
Yes.
But what I love about cloud in general and cloud bookkeeping is I can address client issues literally anytime, anywhere, and forget about them. And I know a lot of accountants say, oh, that sounds terrible that I'm working all the time wherever I am. But in the old days, I know I'd be on vacation somewhere, somebody'd somehow reach me, whether it's email or a phone call, have an issue, and I'd have to worry about it for the rest of my vacation, knowing that when I got back to the office, I'd deal with it. Mm-hmm. Now I can deal with it and forget about it.
Yep. I remember back in the days when we had faxes as our only way of communicating with the world when we were away on holidays, and that's definitely changed. And, having the ability to be on a call now with a client or a virtual go-to meeting, and then 5 minutes later be out pushing my kids on the swing is a huge advantage for me as a father of two small kids. So it's one of the greatest advantages I like about it. But I think we're here today to talk about some of the advantages specifically for independent contractors and how cloud can save them time and money. And I think that there are great advantages for us as accountants, great advantages for small business owners as well. And in fact, the greatest advantages are for the small business owners, in my opinion, because they're the ones who really reap the rewards of the automation and the time savings that eliminate a lot of the mechanical data entry that in the past has taken a lot of time. What do you think about that, Jeff?
I think that's exactly it. And, the reality is a lot of accountants and bookkeepers focus on the annual shoebox. Let's bring it in at the end of the year. We'll put everything together, give you some answers.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is I don't know a single business that operates on an annual basis where I just need information once a year. Most of them, they end up adapting and making decisions on the fly, when reality, if they had this real-time information, they could make much better business decisions, and also they can spend more time on their business rather than chasing paper.
Absolutely, and one of the biggest decisions that independent contractors need to make is about determining their own salary, which is based on how much money that they've taken out of the corporation. And a lot of times for many of my clients, that's a guessing game because they don't have access to that information. Particularly if you have a December, January, or February year end, it's really hard to get that real time information to be able to make the decisions that are necessary for good tax planning. And I think that that's one of the things that QuickBooks or cloud accounting gives us, is the ability to have access to that information in real time, quickly and easily. And again, the biggest advantage that I see is the time savings. The ability
Mm-hmm.
to link your bank statements and credit cards, and have all that information flow in to the system automatically without having to do any data entry is a massive time savings. I mean, I know for our clients, which are fairly simple clients, the average person is spending, anywhere from 20 to 40 hours preparing their bookkeeping. And oftentimes it's done at the end of the year, which means that it's a big pile of paperwork that no one really wants to deal with. So it gets delayed and it gets left until, after the year end, potentially after the deadline, and potentially well after the deadline. And now you're dealing not only with the headache of getting everything prepared on time, but you've got penalties and interest, and just this burden that's sitting on your shoulders that is often more overwhelming than the reality, just because you've magnified it in your head how bad it is, and because you've magnified it in your head how bad it is, you don't want to deal with it. But by using technology to simplify that process, make it a process that's done regularly, that just takes you minutes instead of hours, can really change the lives of these independent contractors, who have, usually, if they're lucky, the bookkeeper is their wife. They
Yeah.
definitely usually don't have their own private bookkeeper. So using technology to really reduce that process and make it as easy as possible is a huge advantage for independent contractors.
Absolutely. And, the other thing I would add is that usually if it's not the wife, or the spouse, it's the contractor themselves.
Yeah.
And realistically, I know personally my time is better spent chasing, doing actual work rather than chasing paper, trying to, if I was a non-accountant, let's say I'm a contractor, I'm trying to give the information to the accountant that they're looking for. I have to sort of figure out what they're looking for in the first place. So if I can do the cloud tools, that is automatically done, and it's saving a lot of my time. So even if I just spent 10 hours a year doing my own bookkeeping, if I can save that 10 hours and focus on running, my business, which again, as a contractor, is offering services to the company I work for, 10 extra hours, I can either bill that and be productive at work, or I can take that time to, take the kids to the park or playground or something.
Absolutely, and that's our most precious commodity right now is time. There's never enough of it, and it's the amount that we have is constantly running out. So if we can get a little bit of that back, it's to me the most precious commodity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as you said, you can't get it back.
Yeah, unfortunately, no one's figured out how to turn the clock back. Even though we
Yeah,
are technically in the future, we've reached the date beyond the date of Back to the Future, haven't we?
absolutely. Yes.
So, some of the other things that might be worth discussing is the third-party integrations that QuickBooks Online has with tools like HubDoc and Receipt Bank and these other applications that can give you audit-proof books and, again, help with eliminating some of the data entry. Do you have one that you like a lot, Jeff? Probably several.
I Several would be a short answer. And I have different reasons for liking different ones. I like Receipt Bank. I like bookkeepingautomation.com. I love HubDoc. And so what I tend to think of when it comes to small business owners, from my perspective as the accountant, one of the biggest problems we always have is, did we get all of the bank statements? Did we get all of the credit card statements?
Absolutely.
Did we get all of the credit card bills? And so I think HubDoc rises to the top as my favorite, just because it does allow us to run out, and a friend of mine refers to it as her golden retriever. It goes out and it fetches those documents.
Is that Jenny that calls it her golden retriever?
That would be Jenny, yes. So again, I love that fetching capability, because quite honestly, when I'm talking to clients, big or small, the common denominator is they want to keep my fees low. They want to make sure that they're getting good value. And honestly, I've yet to figure out how I add value nagging somebody for documents. And obviously, I need those documents to complete the file. In a perfect world, client would give you everything and it would make life simple. But the reality is that never, ever happens.
Yeah, in fact, I've heard a stat that accountants spend as much as 60% of their time chasing down paperwork with clients. And from my experience, I'd say that's definitely true, if not more.
I would say probably more. And again, that's just a guess. But I know, for example, when it comes to preparing corporate tax returns, very, very few of my clients give me everything I need the first time. Less than 10%. I'd be shocked if it was more than that number. So again, and the reality is we're dealing with contractors who bill by the hour, and not every accountant does, but some do. So the reality is we have to bill for the time that we spend, and, bigger firms, the bigger you get, the lower the cost of that time, because you're having, admin people do the chasing. But sometimes it's even just having the in-house accountant having to communicate with the admin people to get them to chase stuff. It's just time, always time. So HubDoc is personally my favorite because it eliminates that time aspect. And, from a client's point of view, it's a real nuisance when Jeff calls me 20 times and reminds me I need to send in my bank statements. And I go, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. And then we get busy, go back to our day, and Jeff calls the 25th time and says, hey, we haven't got that yet. Oh, yeah, right. So it's, honestly, I see chasing paper as the biggest wedge between accountant, bookkeeper, and the client in terms of relationship building. We're annoying them. And quite frankly, they're annoying us, let's be fair. But with HubDoc, you take away that friction.
And it's probably my favorite app because it's useful for pretty much every business, no matter what type of business that you're in. Every business can benefit from not having to manually go out and fetch documents and try to find a way to get them over to their accountant securely. And I know pretty much every accountant, including ourselves, has a client portal, but then it's still a multi-step process of logging onto your bank, downloading the PDF, logging onto your accountant's portal, uploading the PDFs, making sure that you have uploaded, like you said, all 12, or we like to get 13 months because we like to have that 1 month into the next year so we can do accounts receivable and accounts payable, at least reconcile that. But now that information's in there, which means not only is your fee going to be reduced, and let's face it, even if you're a fixed fee, if you have a client that you're spending a lot of time chasing down information on, you're going to change your fixed fee quote on that client, because you just can't be profitable if you're spending a whole bunch of time chasing down paper and not in some way, shape, or form billing for that.
Absolutely. And again, excuse me, sorry. It adds absolutely no value to the client that we've nagged them for a month to get paper. But again, coming back to you can't get your time back. If this just automatically happens, you're not losing your time in the first place, so you don't have to worry about getting it back.
Yeah, and it also enables us as the accountant to move quicker because the statements are uploaded every single month automatically as soon as they're available from your bank, which means that when accountants, unfortunately, we do have peaks and valleys throughout the year, and a lot of the timelines that we have as far as being able to turn around a file for our clients is based on the workload that we have. And when we have a client who's using something like HubDoc and QuickBooks Online, we have the ability to go in and do some of that work throughout the year or in those times when we're less busy, so that if you have a year end that is a December 31st year end, which is our busiest time of year, we've done some of that work ahead of time so that we can process your file faster than the client who has a December 31st year end who's bringing in a shoebox. It just is faster and convenient for us, which means better turnaround times for you, which means no worries about interest and penalties. And, if you're getting a refund, you're getting that money back that much quicker.
Absolutely. Again, it just makes sense. And, in a world where time is the scarcity, how do we leverage that and save our time? So,
Yeah. Now, what do you think is the most important feature, within QuickBooks for yourself? What feature do you like as an accountant, and what do you think is the most important feature for a small business owner?
I think probably honestly, it's the same feature. What I like most about online bookkeeping tools like QuickBooks Online, what I like most about it is the immediate collaboration aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So, back in the day, I call it pass the baton. The client would save a copy of their bookkeeping file to a USB key. We'd have to figure out a way they'd meet up, drop it off at the office.
Yeah.
We'd do what we had to do. Yes, exactly. That dreaded accountant's copy. And at some point, the client would continue doing what they were doing. We'd continue doing what we were doing. And hopefully at the end, this dreaded accountant's copy would magically merge. Everything would work.
Which never happened.
Which never happened. And, I can't tell you how many horror stories I have on what's happened and what can go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the ability to collaborate real time. And I can't stress that enough. If a client is working on entering a transaction or they're doing something themselves, we can go online with them and immediately help them with whatever their issue is.
Mm-hmm.
The old process of pass the baton, usually that was a 3-4 month cycle, and by the end of 4 months nobody remembers what they were waiting to ask the accountant. So again, it's set it, forget it. You can ask the question, deal with it, and move on. I think that's a huge advantage from both sides.
Absolutely. And with the accountant's copy, giving back that accountant's copy and hoping that it got merged back into the file, for me, was always a potential problem. And more often than not, it wasn't merged back in, or it was merged back in and accounts receivable and accounts payable don't reconcile properly. There's lots of reasons that would go wrong. And let's face it, if we can make our lives easier for our clients by going in and making those adjusting journal entries for them, when they are the bookkeeper, or if they're lucky, their spouse is the bookkeeper, that just takes a burden off their shoulder that makes their lives easier, which is what we're talking about, is adding value in new ways. And that's the tip of the iceberg of what we can do with this technology.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, it's instant. We're not waiting months for feedback.
Absolutely. Now, what do you think is the most underutilized feature of QuickBooks Online?
That's a tough one. In all fairness, I tend to deal with a lot of accountants and bookkeepers who are eagerly pushing the boundaries. My wife rolls her eyes, but I sort of compare us to the test pilots of the 50s and 60s who were working to, build the rocket that would get man on the moon. We're always pushing those boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, according to my wife, we're no Chuck Yeager. But so again, I tend to see most of the people I know, they're pushing the boundaries to see what works. From a client perspective, and less relevant for contractors, but for the general population, what I'm seeing underutilized is sort of the instant invoicing by email sort of functionality,
Mm-hmm.
where you can set credit card payments up and literally you can send out the invoice and get paid almost instantaneously. Again, I know contractors aren't necessarily in the position where they have to invoice, but I think that would be one of the biggest things. The other piece, believe it or not, after having gone on and on about how much I love the data automation tools, the least underutilized functionality I'm seeing is the additional plugins that it can add great value to a QuickBooks Online account.
Mm-hmm.
It's to me, if to be very honest, QuickBooks Online, any of the online bookkeeping platforms I've seen, they're not as good at data entry as the locally installed desktop program, back in the day, QuickBooks or Sage 50. They're slower at data entry. And that's sort of, valid concern for most people.
But
But
they're
most
supposed to be
people
built
haven't.
around automation, right? That's the key with these technologies.
Exactly. So, the problem is we're trying to use an old methodology to use a new tool, and we're
Yeah,
sort of complaining that the new tool doesn't do things the way the old tool did. But,
absolutely.
it's sort of the value of it now, and this is plain and simple where I see people missing it, is that integration piece. What else can it do?
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly we go from, I'm old school, we go from having a pocket knife which just has that one single blade that you can basically just open packages or whatever with. Now we've got the Swiss Army knife that you can take out in the wilderness and survive with.
Mm-hmm.
um, QuickBooks Online by itself, or any online cloud accounting solution, is relatively boring. It's
Yeah.
vanilla, it's generic, it's plain. But when you add a hub doc to it and you no longer have to enter data, when you add bank rules, when you add bank feeds, and you no longer have to enter bank data, it gets truly exciting. And, I'm seeing clients who do the books themselves. They're not professional bookkeepers. They're saving 80, 90% of the time that they used to spend just by switching over to QuickBooks Online with an appropriate add-on like HubDoc.
Yeah, it's a big, like it's a big shift in the way things are done. And if the four-letter word that I hate to hear is cash, and if we can get people away from using cash and doing everything on their credit card and debit card, there's literally no data entry ever required. All you need to do is classify the transactions, and again, what I would argue is the most underutilized tool is the bank rules. And QuickBooks is great about making suggestions, but they're somewhat generic in their suggestions that are based on sort of the algorithms across all businesses across Canada. Whereas with the bank rules, you can customize those rules specifically for yourself, even to the point where saying, hey, listen, if I go to Tim Hortons and spend less than $10, that's obviously just me. So that's, business promotion. And, I'm there with one person, we're grabbing a coffee, it's business promotion. But you know what, if I spend more than $50 at Tim Hortons, I'm probably grabbing coffee for the whole office. And now this is potentially an advertising event. So let's move this over into advertising. And, particularly with, the independent contractor market being largely IT consultants, and a lot of people aren't programmers anymore, but they can appreciate the programming aspect of sort of being able to say, if this then that, and have all your bookkeeping and accounting set up programmatically specifically to your own individual needs. And I mean, this is a new era for accounting and bookkeeping that can really make the process simple and easy for all businesses. But I think it's a huge revolution for the independent contractor market because they've always had to do this themselves. You know, they haven't been able to hire a full-time bookkeeper and say, you deal with that. You know, it's been their issue that they've had to manage and deal with. And because of that, you know, I've seen countless clients who are, you know, deal with it at the last minute or beyond. So I think this is a huge advantage in making the process simpler. So it can save you time, it can save you money, and you know it can save you your sanity. You know, that's the three major points that I see of why independent contractors should be moving to a cloud-based technology. And you know, we talk about these third-party apps, which I think are great and really important. But even if you just start with the bare bones and the components, and you know the cost benefit is a no-brainer. You know, the amount of what you'll spend for QBO for an entire year is less than what you'll save probably in the first month of your bookkeeping alone if you were to factor in your own time.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I sort of liken it. I've always compared things to the price of a cup of coffee.
Yep.
And I realized I was probably underestimating the cost of coffee because I'm not a Starbucks drinker. I don't drink coffee.
Yeah.
But the other day I went to Starbucks with my wife and she ordered her traditional, I think it's a caramel macchiato, something or other. I don't speak the language even. And, you know, $6 later, we've got a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
The cost of QuickBooks Online, you know, the sort of mid-tier package that would service 99% of businesses is about $15.
Yeah. And
so,
by the way,
so you're basically spending 2.5 cups of coffee.
Yeah. For anyone on this call, we do have one of the advantages that we have for all Procom clients is we have a discount code that gets you 50% off the retail price of QuickBooks Online for life. Plus, at the moment, is giving you free access to the payroll software. So I think the full retail price is about $30 a month for that package. But with our discount, it's only $15 a month. And, you know, that, like you said, is less than the cost of coffee. I guarantee you I spend more than $15 a month on Starbucks. Unfortunately, that's because I got a Starbucks two doors down from my house, which is a blessing and a curse because I've, you know, I don't even want to know how much I'm spending on a monthly basis at Starbucks, but I can guarantee you it is more than $15.
Yeah. And again, it's amazing. And you touched on it. There's the automation piece, which is really exciting, but there's also that customization. And, you know, all of this stuff, it's built on artificial intelligence platforms. So over time, it only gets better. It gets smarter and the automation gets better. Your time, it's sort of a decreasing curve, and it's a sharply decreasing curve. Over time, you should almost, you know, get to the point where once a month you log in, say yes to all the transactions, and that's it. You're done.
Yeah, and I guess
we're talking minutes, not hours.
Yeah, and we should be upfront. The reality is there is a learning curve. It's a new piece of technology, and there is probably, you know, an understanding that takes a bit of time to acquire, but it is really, you know, point and click and easy to pick up. There's great tutorials, great resources and support. One of the things that we do, obviously, for all the clients that sign up for a QBO account with us, regardless of whether you retain our services, is we give you access to our drip marketing campaign, which includes great video tutorials from QuickBooks on, you know, how to set up your bank account, how to process bank fees, you know, how to enter your first invoice, how to enter expenses. So there is a bit of learning to be done, but there's lots of great free support out there to help you get over that learning curve, which is a sharp curve because you pick it up so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now we've got about 1 minute left. Any parting words, Jeff? Any things that you think independent contractors should know before they start their cloud accounting journey?
I think the only parting word I would have is start. it seems simple and stupid and overly simplified, but the reality is, I know a lot of, personally and professionally, I know a lot of contractors, and I know that their biggest complaint, and I've seen this, is, at the end of the year, they've got that shoebox. They've operated their business throughout the year, and it's this big, I call it the boogie monster, because they don't know what the monster under the bed looks like.
Yep.
So in their mind, they make it bigger and scarier than it was. And, the great thing about QuickBooks, or, having an automatic monthly data entry, is you can estimate your tax issues, liabilities throughout the year. You can actually plan and be proactive. So again, my advice is, if you're looking to save money, reduce your bookkeeping costs, reduce accounting costs, the fastest way to do that, control your tax bill, is to have a virtual cloud solution.
Yeah, and get started. I think that's a great message. Get started, or giddy up. With this Western Canada expansion, that's our new phrase of the week. Giddy up and get on it as quickly as you can, because the sooner you get on it and get your bank feeds connected, the less data entry you got to do. You wait 2 or 3 months. A live bank feed is usually only going to go back about 2 to 3 months. So that means that you've got to have CSVs that you got to manually import, which can be done, but it's now a multi-step process instead of a one-click step. And depending upon who you bank with, the feeds, the CSVs and downloads may not even be there. So get on it, get using it right away. If you're not sure, download the free 1-month trial and play around with it. And, there's no cost for that. And if you like it, then you can sign up and convert.
Absolutely.
On that note, I'm not sure if there was any questions I didn't see. I'll just scroll through quickly here. I think we're good. And once again, I do apologize for having such a poor video quality. And Jeff, I do really appreciate you joining us on this call today. And if there's anything that you have any further questions, feel free to reach out. Hit us on Twitter at WallCPA for myself, at Dream Practices for Jeff, at Procom Jobs for our host Procom. And again, I do want to thank Procom for putting this together for us. And unfortunately, Wendy wasn't with us this week. She's enjoying a bit of much deserved time off. So just want to say thank you to everyone and Jeff for stepping in. And if you want to connect, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Excellent. Well, thank you for having me. And parting words for you, Andrew, and the immortal words of Baz Luhrmann: wear sunscreen, since you're out at the cottage today.
Thanks, guys. Bye for now.
Bye for now.